I really had this impression inside that I needed to perform, I need to do a lot of things for people, and that created this sense of workaholism and validation seeking, and sometimes even entitlement. And so I just want to say this freedom from that, and there's a work that can be done that is extremely freeing. And I like to say not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear the path. And so even for those that may be in the middle of a storm right now, just want to encourage you that maybe it is part of the journey, and that there's something much better ahead of you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Traversing Entrepreneurship Podcast, a show for business owners who set out to do something different and did not stop there. This is Derek DeLomo coming to you from Traverse City, Michigan, the city that inspired the name of this show. With over 18 years of experience in the financial industry, I've heard my fair share of success as well as horror stories in business. On this podcast, I enjoy sitting down with a variety of entrepreneurs to talk about what it takes to build a successful business, including all the ups and downs that come with doing something different and paving your own way in life. In today's episode, I'll be interviewing Christophe Dessaigne, who is a co-founder of JackBe, a disruptive online grocery store model based out of Oklahoma City that aims to serve people well and has a faith-based foundation. Christophe's previous business experience spans several sectors, from technology to media to retail, both in Europe and the United States. In 2022, Christophe and his family relocated to France, but continues to work in the United States. Join us today as we discuss his experiences, providing strategic oversight, leadership, developing businesses, and navigating burnout. Welcome to the show, Christophe. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Derek. Glad to be here. Hi, everybody.
So can you give us a little bit of your story, I guess your background, give our listeners a sense of how you got started and maybe what life was like before you started JackBe?
Sure. Yes. I was born in Monte Carlo, which is mostly known for Formula One racing and around the age. Yeah, and the yachts. My parents took different directions. So at the age of 10, I relocated with my mom to the French Alps. And after that, I followed a little bit the path of both my parents, who were entrepreneurs and working really hard. And so I wanted to study business. And I went through business school, both in France and Canada, and then ended up going back to doing my MBA in Venezuela. And then straight after that, I started my first business. It was a technology company that was enabling blind people to listen to the newspaper through a voice-synthesis technology. Back in 2002, the technology was not very well used yet, I would say, in the consumer market. It was more like in airports, train station, and it was extremely expensive. And so the goal was to give access to those newspaper and other media to blind people at the same price as you and I could access it. And that started my entrepreneurial journey. I grew up fairly happy with family around, and then found a little bit of a journey through the Alps of being a little bit more isolated, and that developed a lot of curiosity about how to combine business and helping people at the same time. That's why this first business was focused on helping blind people.
So how did you go from, the technology company to JackBe?
Yeah, so after that, I pursued a journey in England for 9 years, where I started a couple of other companies in the media, and then did a turnaround for a recruitment company until I got recruited by a faith-based family office, a private equity firm based out of the U.S. And so I joined them in 2014. First looking for opportunities for them to invest in East Africa and Europe, and then eventually relocated to work with them full-time from the US. And as I was doing that, we're looking at probably 250 deals a year, both in early stage and mid-cap, so companies that were anywhere from 25 to 150 million top line. And looking at all those entrepreneurs and starting to understand maybe a little bit more like the struggles for them in terms of both fundraising, but also getting access to the right level of experience and expertise in their own team. That gave me the idea to look at some problems that were existing. And so from looking at the pure venture funds, looking more at like a venture studio, which would be more about looking at problems that exist, and then having funds that will come and then using some people that already had successful exit to start those businesses from the ground and basically go into the market to try to execute on that idea successfully. And so in 2020, I met one of my co-founders of JackBe, and they needed a bit more time. So they actually contacted me to consult with me to help them fundraise and work on the first business plan. And then about 6 months later, when they came back with another 2 or 3 members of the team, I felt the idea was extremely compelling, and I joined as a co-founder. And so we started the company in June 2020, right in the middle of COVID, right? A good time to start a business.
Good time to start a business, especially if it's online based.
Exactly. But what we realize is, if you look at the online grocery industry in the US, it was about 6-7% before COVID of total market share. And it's now close to 13%. But the biggest problem in the online ordering, if you ever experienced it, was the time it took. So it took almost as much time to order online because you go on a website or an app and there's 30,000 SKUs that you're looking for. So if you go to the ketchup, you can have 27 ketchup. You go for vinegar, there's 20 vinegars, and so on and so forth. And so it was taking a lot of time to order, but also it was taking quite some time to get ready. So it was not the last minute shopping. You need to plan for it, like at least 2 hours, 3 hours the next day. And then there was substitution. Substitution pre-COVID were in the 10%. During COVID, it went as high as 20%. And so for every 10 products you order, 2 of those were not coming to your home, or you were not picking them up. And then the customer service was not great. Like if there was substitution or problems, like there was really no great way to solve that. So when we started JackBe, the goal was for us to find a way to address those needs. And we came up with a technology and a system that allows us to pick up your order in 10 minutes or less. You do not need to pick a time. You can just say, I'm here if you're in front of a store, or I'm on my way when you're ready to come to a store. And there's 100% guaranteed product, no substitution, because we don't have any in-store customer. So anything that is in our inventory, that is in our app that you can order, is available for you.
They're placing an order, they're picking things up from a store, but it's not necessarily a storefront. So is it like a distribution warehouse, or how is this all set up?
Yeah, it's a great question. What we found out is there were 2 types, right? So most big brand like Walmart or Kroger or Safeways, they have their online ordering, and most of those are being picked up directly from the store. So if you go to Walmart, often you would see someone, with a big cart with 6 or 10 boxes, blue boxes, and then a little like device, and they try to pick up 7, 8, 10 orders at once. So go wonder why, there's so many substitution issues with having to do all of that. And so they don't make any money out of that. And then you've got other distribution centers that are fully automated, that cost millions to build, and those are outside of town. So like they're not where people live. And so for that, it's usually next day delivery. And so there was nothing quite in between. And what we found out is that 11% of the products generate about 76% of the general revenue. So going back to the example of ketchup, there's 27 ketchup if you go to a local grocery store, and there's only 3, 4, 5 of those that represent 70, 80% of the sales. So what we did is we offered more of less. So now we went from the 30,000 SKUs that you would normally find in a grocery store to 5,000 SKUs. Now we still have 7 or 8 ketchup, which is plenty. We don't have 27 ketchups. And so what we wanted was not to subsidize or replace the monthly grocery shopping, but more like the weekly grocery shopping. I don't know about you, Derek, but my family and I, we buy milk, orange juice, lettuce, bread, those things every week. And we don't need to have 20 choices of those. We're just used to the main brands, I guess. And we just got those. And so we try to simplify the quantities of SKUs, but still offer the choice that 80% of customers were looking for.
Is this only a pickup service, or is it pickup or delivery?
So we decided to work mostly on curbside pickup. So what we realized too is through the study, it started, being like delivery, more focused on delivery, and slowly it actually moved towards more like curbside pickup. And there's several reasons for that. One, for delivery, usually you get charged for it, and if not, you have to tip the driver. Two, when you pick a time for delivery, let's say 2 p.m., the driver may arrive half an hour earlier or may arrive half an hour late, because usually those drivers do 2, 3, 4 pickup at once to make money. Three, for those companies, you get your food to go in a car of someone you don't know. So for all you know, they may smoke in the car, or they may have like dogs, and so maybe not super professional, and then like the time just take more time, and so you can't control the outcome. Curbside pickup, on the other end, is free. Like you don't have any extra cost, and you choose when you pick it up. And with us, you don't even have to plan. You just come and you just click one of 2 buttons, and it's ready under 10 minutes. And so what we realize is a lot of people, if you put this grocery store where people live, and our criteria is usually to have about 15,000 to 20,000 homes in a 3 to 4 mile radius, and then an intersection of a street where you got 35 to 50,000 cars that drive every day, you're going to have enough traffic for people to pick up their order on the way back from, dropping off the kids, or on the way back home, from work or from church, and so usually the curbside pickup model is a lot more efficient, especially if you've got like friends coming for dinner last minute, and you're about, to come back home from work, and your wife say, "Hey, can you pick up some chicken?" Like, we have everything else, but we miss chicken, maybe, a pack of Corona. Usually for that, you would have to go park, get out of your car, get inside a 30, 40,000 square foot, warehouse, typical Kroger or Walmart or whatever. And then you'd have to go through the store, come out, there's a little bit of queue at the checkout, or it would take you 15, 20 minutes. With us, your wife could order it, and then you're on your way back and you just pick it up and it's ready, even if it's 10 minutes before you come home. So it's a little bit like the cash and carry, like the old convenience store. Sure. Except you don't have to go in the store and give your list and pay cash and, get your coins back. But we try to make it super convenient.
Yeah, and it seems like I want to call it, made efficiencies out of the things that were inefficient to begin with.
Trying to, and I mean, we've done it now. Like we've done over 125,000 orders in the last 14 months of being operating. And so we've averaged 4 minutes and 18 seconds on all of those orders in pickup time. So we've reduced the size of the warehouse to 16,000 square feet, and we've customized the gravity shelf. We customized the cart. Another thing that we do is when we pick up your order, we put every ambient items into white bags, every refrigerated items in green bags, and every frozen items in blue bags. So when you come home, you know where everything is going already. You don't have to open like 20 bags on your counter and try to figure out where's the butter, where's the ice cream, it's all organized for you already.
Out of curiosity, how many people does it take to staff a 16,000 square foot warehouse and still carry 4 minute, I think 38 second average?
Yeah, we've got less than 9 staff working at any time. So we got a total of 15 staff. And then we open 8 to 8 every day of the week. And so with 2 shifts, of 7-8 people at any given time, we're able to operate in those times.
Yeah. So, I mean, you said you've done 140,000 orders or more in the last 14 months. So you're doing 10,000 orders a month, essentially 10, 12,000 orders a month. That's basically 500 orders a day, give or take.
So there's obviously days where you have more orders. So we've been between 200 orders in average during the week to 300-400 orders, during weekends. Sunday especially is a big order. Like people are just coming off church and just make a big order and then come and pick it up, and then they're done for the week. And then there's, before big holidays, you can go up, with more orders. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a ingenious business model. Over the course of your, I guess, business career, I mean, things have gone well, things have gone bad. you obviously took some things that you thought were bad, made them better, and you have JackBe. What would you say, through your journey? Let's just think about JackBe for a minute. What would you consider like your, top 2 or 3 successes with JackBe?
I think it was JackBe. We developed about 75% of the technology, and 25% we used bolt-on technology that was already existing from companies that also raised 20, 30, 40 million to develop something like a white label that was very effective. So we tried to not reinvent the wheel and try to use things that already existed to maximize the money or the deployment of resources that we raised from our investors. Second is we learned to crawl before we walked, before we run. And so we went really slow at the beginning. We really wanted to understand the needs quickly. Like, we don't want to be overexcited. Like, a lot of people start businesses based on the need that they feel is a need that everybody else perceives, but sometimes it's just their own needs. So we wanted to do a lot of surveys, wanted to talk to people that had combined, 150 years experience in grocery industry, that would really be able to confirm, not just from a gut standpoint, but also from a clear analysis, standpoint based on data, that those problems were real problems and that we're not inventing problems to solve, but we're really trying to answer existing problems. And I think also, like, just building a team that could last the entrepreneurial journey. We are 4 years old now, a little bit over 4 years. There's 9 out of 10 startup that, basically fail, or stop after 3 years. And so want a team that would be able to fail and, then stand back up. But one of the biggest quality of a team has been grit and perseverance, like not giving up. And you don't want to pivot too often, right? Because if you pivot too often, you end up going around, right? And coming back to the same point. So you want to pivot just, a few times. And we pivoted a couple of times. But the last pivot, I would say, if I may go from like our successes to maybe our failures. Sure. I think one of our biggest failure, Derek, was we were maybe arrogant enough to think that we could go and compete with the like of Walmart or, Kroger or Safeway and create our own brands. Like, we thought JackBe would be a grocery store, and, we raised the first, 12.5 million before opening the first store. And we had raised enough to open 2, maybe 3 stores. And then we're going to go on a Series A to raise another 40 million to open another 40 stores in the following 18 months. And that didn't go to plan at all, because to build a brand takes a lot more time, takes a lot more money. And so that money definitely was enough to build the technology, to build the system, to have a store and 2 stores to prove the model, and to have enough data to prove that we can do those orders in the 10 minutes, which was really what we're trying to prove. But we failed in building our own brand. And so we have been in the last 6 months, 7 months, in contract negotiation with one of the 5 big box to basically pilot with them and become the curbside pickup solution. And so right now, out of all the 5 big box, all of them are doing online ordering. For all of them, let's say that they make about 10% of their revenue with online ordering. All of them are losing anywhere from 5 to 8%. So if you order $100 with any one of them, it costs them $105 to $108 to fulfill that order to you. So the only reason why they do it is to maintain market share. And because those people tend to go and do also the shopping into brick and mortar for like the monthly shopping or become, remain loyal customers. But we are being evaluated right now. And that's our pivot, to become more as a solution or service as, software, to basically provide that solution for one of these 5 big box to do the curbside pickup and help them not only make money, but improve the customer experience and see if the model works for them and for us. And so that's the stage in which we are right now after 4 years.
Back in the beginning, you said, you created this technology and also had a good chunk of bolt-on pieces that you added to your technology. Mm-hmm. have those been integrated? So I'm thinking along the lines of, you providing a service to, one or all of the 5 big boxes.
Mm-hmm.
How are those bolt-on technologies? You're essentially becoming a bolt-on piece for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How does that kind of trickle down, and what kind of issues arise from having, let's say 2 or 3 cooks in the kitchen per se?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we anticipated that. So we've got an agreement with them that allow us to basically use their technology as part of our suite of technologies, and that we can use that with any third party that we choose to. Ultimately, there could be, one of 3 possibilities. First one is we keep it that way, and we keep relying on our partners. Option number 2, if we scale, is we acquire part of the company or all of the company, so the partnership become maybe more official. So instead of being a customer to them, we merge and we become partner in the deal. Option 3 is we go and basically develop 100% our own technology without obviously impending on anything that they've done from a proprietary software standpoint, which is very feasible because we are only using part of the technology. Like they have a full suite that is being used by other customers. We're using only part of the back office. And so those would be one of three options. Once again, I think we're not super, we don't feel the need to reinvent the wheel if there's a good partnership in place and if the technology is stable and working. So for the time being, and I would say probably for the next 2-3 years, we don't see why moving from option number 1, which would be to continue working with them under the agreement that we have that allow us to use the technology as part of our full suite that we propose to our customers.
Sure. So how does I'm going to call it a technology firm like JackBe, how, you're essentially taking products that are already for sale on the market.
Yep. Packaging
them into a curbside pickup. How does JackBe make money?
It's a great question. So there's 2 services that we are piloting with these big bucks. The first one is licensing the technology. And for that, there's different models, but usually it's a percentage on the top line. So a lot of you see franchises doing that too. So it could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7%. So if the store makes 10 million and you get 5%, you basically make, $500,000 per year per store for licensing technology. The second model is operating the stores for these big bucks. And so it could be big bucks powered by JackBe, or it could be JackBe powered by big bucks. This could be the branding. And a lot of those big bucks tend to use a cost plus basis. So if you buy sushi, for example, in one of those big bucks, usually it's not, if I take the example of, Publix, Publix sell sushis. Most Publix don't have a staff that makes sushi for Publix. They would have a company that makes sushi that comes, and they basically make the sushi. And if it costs them $20,000 a month to do that, they're going to charge Publix $20,000 plus 5, 6, 7%. And then for Publix, the advantage is they don't have to hire the staff. They don't have to train them. They just basically, those people make the products that they sell and they charge them for their expenses plus, something. So those are the 2 models that JackBe would make money. Right now, we are operating still under our own brand. And so we are not making money because we don't have the scale yet, and we're buying for 2 stores. So it would be much better to be working with that big box that buys for 3,000 stores or 5,000 stores. So the cost of goods sold would be a lot cheaper. So
sure. And is that pretty standard in the industry to have kind of a cost plus model? Of I'm going to say 5 to 7 or 8%. The reason I'm asking is so I use Shipt here at home.
Mm-hmm.
So to deliver my groceries, but it's they go and shop at, for in Michigan, it's, a big one is Meijer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they go and shop at Meijer, and, it's okay, I know how much something costs at Meijer,
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a 20+% markup for most of those items.
Yeah.
So it seems like a cost plus, 5 to 7 is a very, I'm going to call it thin margin.
So usually, and it depends state by state, but a lot of those like DoorDash, Instacart, Shipt, what they do is they charge the store 10 to 15%, plus they add a 5-10% markup to the customer. And then on top of that, they expect you to tip you. So that's why the delivery model is even harder for those grocery stores, because the customer pay $100, they get $90. Now, the margin usually would be net profit 2 to 4 to 5%. Now, gross profit on cost of goods sold, is usually more like in the 20-25%. But yeah, for them, it's the delivery model is really hard. So that's why Target acquires Shipt, so they can manage that better. But Shipt still, work with other big box, to basically, because that was not enough for them, because they pay a lot of money for Shipt, and it ended up not being a great transaction for Target.
It's we've used Shipt probably since 2018 or 2019, sometime before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And, once COVID hit, like Shipt exploded in terms of popularity. And it's just like, I look at that and I'm like, man, they are just making money hand over fist. But now that you explain it to me, they're really not. They're making, like you said, probably 2 to 5% net profit off of every order.
I mean, if you look at all those companies like Instacart have gone, like the valuation decreased 10x, and they filed 3 times before, going public, and they had gone through, I think, Series F or G, before that. And so a lot of those companies has been more about acquiring market share and collecting data. So it's been more like data mining and then being acquired or going public. But none of those companies have been operating with profit. And so those companies that do delivery do not make profit. So you look at Gorilla, Getir, Instacart, DoorDash, a lot of those are not making profit. They just keep raising money or waiting like Shipt to be acquired, or like Instacart to go public, so their investors get eventually a return. But operating wise, they're making little money to no money. And then the grocery stores on the online ordering are not making money, because they have to pay people in their store to go and pick up for you in a 40,000 square feet that is not made for, online ordering. It's made for like you to go in the aisle and be distracted and buy more than you need and see like 27 of everything. And so they're all losing money. And so we wanted first to really address like the customer experience, but we also wanted to prove that you can make money in that, in that small market. And I mean, for all I know, if we can prove the model that you can make money and we bring you the convenience as a customer, I mean, why not going from 13%, percent share to 25? I mean, if you got the convenience, like, it's not like people, like back in the days, people were going to grocery store and it was a social place, right? They were seeing the neighbors, they were having, but now it's pretty rare. Like, people are heads down, listening to a podcast, or like rushing up, or busy with kids, or it's very rarely you go to grocery store to connect with people anymore. So it's really a function of need. And some crazy calculation, the average family of 2 parents and 2 kids spend an average of 70 to 90 minutes per week grocery shopping. So if you accumulate that over a lifetime, from the age of 20 to the age of 70, you spend like 6 months of your life grocery shopping. Is that really worthwhile? I mean, like, it's a need, right? Like, so I understand the pleasure of going grocery shopping from time to time. My mom was a chef. I love cooking. But it's one of the few needs that we have, right? Like, there's a lot of things that we want, but buying your milk, your salad, your eggs, your bread every week, it's a need. It's not like a pleasure every week. Can be. But so how do you simplify that? Keep it affordable, reliable, with good customer service, and make money over it?
Sure. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts.
There.
So you've done a lot of things over the course of your career.
Mm-hmm.
Have there been any, I'm going to call it personal struggles along the way? I mean, you're kind of going in all these different directions, whether it's burnout or something. I mean, anything that you've dealt with just personally to say, I got to take a look at this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question. And maybe it's time to be vulnerable here, but I think, last 18 months, I've taken a bit of a halftime. So I still obviously very involved with JackBe. I'm chair of the board and one of the 4 co-founders and still very involved with a lot of the strategy and investment, but also relying a lot on the team. And in the last 18 months, I've been going through a journey of understanding a little bit more about the wounds from my childhood. And so I've been fortunate to having this time to also go through some therapy and I've been asking myself why I was so focused on performance, why I was so enjoying working and all those things. And what I realized is that I suffered from a lot of neglect when I was a kid. Both of my parents were working really hard. And when we moved to the French house, my mom was running a restaurant. And so every lunch, dinner, weekends, when I was free, she was busy. And I was a single kid. And so I ended up being very lonely. And there's been also some abuse, emotional abuse. My dad married 5 times, and all of his wives were not the nicest necessarily with me, or like not the most encouraging. Some were, but some were not. And even if they were, there was still like this sense of, oh gosh, I just wish I would have like parents, that would be together, or like I don't know what it is to be in a unified family. My parents divorced. I was 15 months old. And so emotional abuse, physical abuse, intellectual abuse, neglect. I think all those things when I was maybe 10 to 12, 13 years old, I developed those negative core beliefs about myself. So even though I was maybe successful to some standard in my career, when I would look at myself in the mirror, Derek, I would say to myself, you're unworthy. You're not good enough. You're less than. You're not lovable. If you don't do things for people, they cannot love you. I thought I could never be loved for just being. I thought I need to do something for them. And so I developed a pattern of seeking validation and therefore doing a lot of things for other people. And workaholic. I've seen both of my parents working really hard. And I thought the only way I'm going to be appreciated in this world is if I'm a performer, if I'm working hard, if I'm on 12 boards, if I'm working 70 hours a week, if I'm doing 90 business travels a year, if I'm, accumulating all those miles and points and, status. And yet at the same time, I was an elder in my church. I think I was a good husband, a good parent, but I was not very present. I was always busy. So I was providing financially. I was providing by being this, I would say, respected, generous person in the community, but I don't think I was the husband, the father that my family deserved. And very quickly in the last 18 months, I realized that I needed to address those child wounds in some ways so I can become the man that perhaps God has created me to be and not react like, the wounded 12-year-old when something was coming up and, would make me angry or impulsive. So I've been reflecting a lot of that and did a lot of work and that developed a bit of a passion for me to work with high potential leaders, whether they are, in business or athletes or, simply just people that have high potential and wanting to work with them to help unleash that potential in a healthy way and helping them maybe having self-reflection and not just addressing the symptoms, but addressing the root issues.
Sure.
And so that's been my journey for the last 18 months. And
so how do you identify somebody that has high potential?
I think someone that has high potential would have this vision of doing something that could benefit others, that would not be self-centered, and someone that would exhibit some willingness to grow. So there's always like people that are self-learners or able to learn from feedback from others, so like people that respond well to feedback and that do not become too defensive. And I think, people that tend to maybe not take themselves so seriously and want to maybe become a better version. Like there's a quote that I've meditated quite a lot on is, the dreams of tomorrow determines today's parameters. The dreams of tomorrow determines today's parameters. And so I think someone with high potential will not just focus on the dreams of tomorrow, but also somewhat focus on today's parameters. And I read a great book called Atomic Habits from James Clear. You may have read it too, but you say you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And so I think people with high potential would have this tendency to want to focus on the systems more than the goals, and create these patterns. And something that I'm passionate about, that I've been helping leaders work on, and not just at the level of the organization through strategic planning, which I've done a lot of, but also just personally, how do they build the systems that work for them to fulfill their potential?
What kind of, I'm going to call it, pitfalls do you see people with high potential exhibiting? Or, yes, they have all these things that they can potentially be very good at. What traps do you see them falling into?
I think sometimes, most of the time, lack of humility and, just taking yourself maybe a little bit too seriously can be a pitfall. And so I think it's really like, when you have a success, when you have a failure, how you react to those two tend to, give maybe more room for the potential to be fulfilled. And so sometimes when people fail, they tend to be really isolating, numbing themselves, becoming a victim. Or they can look at it and, what can I learn from that? And how can I use that failure for future success? And on the other side, you have success, and you start acknowledging, okay, would have had that success without, some of my colleagues, some of my team, or, if you've got any faith really, without God or without your higher authority, and just trying to not being so self-centered, but being, a little bit more outwardly focused on your environment and what have been the factors to this success or failure. And so pitfall is usually emotional awareness, is good, and also humility.
I would say you probably fit that mold yourself, being a high performing individual. What would you said you've changed a lot of things for yourself in the last 18 months or so. What did, your day or week or quarter look like for you personally, 5 years ago or 10 years ago versus what it looks like today when you're focusing more on, I'm going to call it the emotional or the mental health side of things?
Yeah. I think 5 years ago, it was all about performance. And so it was performance at all costs. And so I remember spending, late evenings or early mornings, proofreading contracts before, a transaction, or responding to, 20 emails that I received throughout the day that I didn't have time to respond to, or, living at the 5 o'clock, flight instead of the 7 o'clock flight, to, be at a meeting earlier, or to be there to, get a coffee with someone to get ready for the meeting, and really work myself to the limit of what my body could handle. And then when I was trying to rest, I was still focused on that, and therefore was not very present to my family, or would get irritated more quickly, or the number of time where I say to my kids, yeah, give me 5 minutes, and then that became half an hour. And so 5 years forward is, I'll give an example, but like there's a team of 6 executives from that big box that came 2 weeks ago to our store for finalizing details and operating, and there was a little bit of FOMO for me, like, fear of missing out. And I was like, oh, should I fly back and be there? And then I think deep inside, I was like, well, can I add value? Yes, probably, but so does the team. And I don't need to be there. I can trust them. And instead I can be with my family. My kids start school in a week from now, and I can focus on them because we got a team for a reason, and I don't need to be there. And then 3 days after the meeting in person, I was there on a Zoom call with them. Everything went well, and I was not missed at all. And that's okay. Like it's the humility to recognize you don't need to be involved with everything. I think the other big change is, I think before I wanted to be right. Now I think I'm seeking more to get it right. And so it's a different perspective. It's not so much about me. It's more about whatever needs to be done. And so I think it's just minimalizing a little bit. I don't know if you've heard of that book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, from an author called John Mark Comer. And just, I think I remember a conversation with my dad like 30, 40 years ago. He would leave work maybe at 7 p.m. He had a business with 200-300 employees. And then he would go home. And maybe 20 people had his phone at home. There was no mobile phone, no internet, no emails. And so, and then he would wake up and go back to work at 7 or 8. And during the 7 p.m. to the 7 a.m., for those 12 hours, there was no interruption, no disruption. And it was a different kind of life, right? Like, so there's all the benefit of technology, but how intrusive it's been, into our own life. And so how do we limit that and use technology really to improve business without destroying our lives in so many ways? And so just finding the right balance. I'm not against technology by any means. I'm just trying to find the right balance for myself and for our family.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny you mentioned that. As we sit here, you're in France, I'm in the United States. It's close to 8 o'clock for you. It's close to 2 o'clock for me.
Yes, that's the beauty of technology. Yeah,
it's the beauty, but I mean, at the same time, I feel a little bad because I'm intruding on your family time right now. It's almost 8 o'clock, right?
And that was planned.
Wonder where dads are doing.
No, because I spent a day with them, so it was planned. That's completely fine. But it's a good point.
So I think we usually start to wrap up every episode by giving our guest, you in this case, a few minutes to give a little bit extra of what they have to offer, whether that's offer advice to aspiring entrepreneurs, talk about something that is important to you, promote JackBe, etc. So this is kind of your time to have the floor and give our listeners a little bit extra of what Christophe has to offer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Derek. I think the first thing I want to offer is empathy. For all of those like me that, for 30 years, I dealt with those negative core beliefs that came from child's unresolved trauma or wounds. And I really had this impression inside that I needed to perform, I need to do a lot of things for people. And that created this sense of, workaholism and validation seeking and sometimes even entitlement. And so I just want to say this freedom from that. And there's a work that can be done that is extremely freeing. And I'm not a therapist, a counselor. I've got a lot of resources that I can share, but also if someone is really willing to go through that path of a self-discovery in some ways or healing from past wounds to be more fulfilled and perhaps happier in still being successful in business or any endeavors, I think it can help with that. And, I like to say not all storms come to disrupt your life. Some come to clear the path. And so even for those that may be in the middle of a storm right now, just want to encourage you that maybe it is part of the journey and that there's something much better ahead of you. And so anyone that, would feel that way, I'd love to have a introductory call and, just to hear your story and see if I can be of any help. From JackBe's standpoint, we are raising, $1 million right now. We already raised half of it. And so if there's any investors here that want to be part of a startup that is 4 years into it and with a lot of validation, so a lot of de-risking, that could be an opportunity too. But I tend to be very cautious right now. We've been raising most of that money from current investors and we've got a lot of traction. So it's more, if you are from the industry or have an interest in industry and can add more than just, financial resources. So it's, interesting. We look for more than just investors for their money, but also for what they can bring to the organization and rely on their wisdom and their experiences. And then the third part is my wife and I, she's also brilliant. And we got a consulting firm called Tanomy Consulting, Tanomy-consulting.com. We do offer consulting for founders or organizations that are looking for fractional strategic advisors, or if looking to raise capital for your business, just helping in building the strategy for that, or even building the pitch deck. And been doing also some strategic planning. But I think we see ourselves more as, if you're a founder, an entrepreneur, heads down, and you need someone to, just throw your ideas at and get someone that will help you work not in the business, but on the business, and really bring a little bit of wisdom and experience and help you make maybe better decision with like a 3, 5, 10 years outlook, not just the 2 months outlook. We believe we can add value there. So, in any way, just super grateful to be part of this conversation with you, Derek. And if I can help anyone from your audience, would love to do that. And thank you for the invitation to share about my story.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story, and a lot of wise words were just uttered there at the end. How would people get in touch with you, with JackBe, or with you and your wife regarding consulting or investment and integration?
Yeah, so I've got an email address, which is Christophe@Tanomy-consulting.com for a consulting firm, and I can be joined from for any of the three point that I mentioned through that email. If not, I can be found also on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to leave my phone number if anyone contacts you directly, and you can pass that on to them, obviously.
Well, as you know, my name is Derek Delomo. I'm the owner of both Tremonti Financial Consultants and Tremonti Tax Solutions, together referred to as Tremonti. Tremonti bridges the gap between financial advisors and accountants by serving as fractional CFO to our clients. We specifically love to work with business owners to develop a proactive tax strategy that maximizes after-tax profits. It's our job to help you earn more, be more efficient, grow faster, and pay as little in taxes as legally possible. If this idea piques your interest, please go to TremontiTax.com and click on the Schedule Now button to book a 15-minute chat with me. Whether we end up working together or not, I'd love to hear from you. With all that said, Christophe, it was really good talking to you today.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
For those of you listening, if you enjoyed today's episode and had a few helpful takeaways, we would love for you to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and share this episode with other business-minded friends. This has been another episode of the Traversing Entrepreneurship Podcast. We had fun today and hope you did too. Thanks again, Christophe, for being here, and thanks you for tuning in and listening.
This podcast is presented by Tremonti Financial Consultants, LLC. The firm is registered as an investment advisor and only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Content should not be viewed as an offer to buy or sell any of the securities mentioned or as legal or tax advice. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment or strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. There are no assurances that a portfolio will match or exceed any particular benchmark. All investment strategies can result in profit or loss.